What is up, guys, and welcome to another episode of Guarani Vision, the first ever podcast dedicated to Paraguayan football in English. As always, I'm Roberto Rojas, and joining me today is my co-host, Ralph Hanna. And here we are, guys. Here we are on another weekend of Paraguayan football coming up. We got the Superclasico, always a big affair, no matter how the teams are doing. We did see some drama in the last few days happening. What's been going on with Cerro Porteño? We'll speak about what happened there. Obviously, we're getting straight into the MLS Cup playoffs, where we have a few Paraguayans that will be competing to hopefully win the MLS Cup. Some national team players that we've been seeing on the national team too. So we'll see who's going into that and everything else that's been going on. But it's hard to believe, Rob, and we got here obviously introduced you here. It's crazy that we're already near November. Like we're already towards the end of the year. Obviously, we also have Libertadores and Sudamericana finals coming up too, which it usually means the end of the season. And we got some Paraguayans there as well that could indeed win a title. But yeah, it's crazy that the year's already coming to an end. The clausura is still not over, as crazy as people want to say. Like we do not have a champion yet. But no, I just want your thoughts on how you've been assessing this whole week so far, ever since coming back from the international break.
Yeah, hi Roberta and hi everybody watching, listening. It's been kind of busy, right? Like you were saying, there's still lots of football to be had. That here in South America, the seasons are coming to the end. The days are getting hot in Paraguay, and the summer's arriving, so everybody like gets into summer mode. But there's still football to be played. I mean, Libertad slipped up at the weekend. Cerro won on Tuesday. So technically, they've closed the gap a little bit. It's still 7 points, but there's still football to be played there. You never know what could happen, right? And we've got the Superclasico coming up this weekend, which we're going to talk about, and that will be exciting. And then there's so much going on, right? We were saying the Pan American Games are happening. Paraguay women they won 10-0 against Jamaica, which sounds really good. If you remember, Jamaica beat Brazil at the Women's World Cup recently, but it's not the same team, right? Is a Jamaica that is the main team is in the Gold Cup, and this was like a U17s. But Paraguay, they're pretty much full strength. I mean, Jessica Martinez was there; she scored a hat trick, so they looked really good in that game. But I think it's more a one-off, so we should maybe take it with a pinch of salt. And then we were just saying off air that we got MLS Cup, and there's plenty of Paraguayans in action. I mean, some of them are injured, but some are hopefully coming back from injury. There's the all Paraguay matchup here in Texas. We got Houston against Real Salt Lake in this best of three. And you'll have Brian Ojeda at Salt Lake, and you'll have Ivan Franco at Houston. So we got like two players going against each other. And your goalkeeper that you like, Carlos Coronel, he's through to the next round. He got through the wild card. So we'll see more of Red Bulls now. They got a tough game against Cincinnati. So plenty going on, Roberto. Like as we were saying, even though it feels sometimes with Paraguay that things come to a close around now, school's going to be out soon as well, all that kind of stuff. But there's still plenty to play for.
There's still a lot to go to. I didn't actually realize this, but you said the Gold Cup. Paraguay are also in that Gold Cup for the women's, the women's Gold Cup. So that's actually a really good test for us, and they'll be playing in February and March here in the United States. So that's actually a really good test for us to obviously better ourselves against really the strong teams from the world, like Canada, US, Jamaica, like you said. So that's a really good opportunity for our players to do well. But yeah, you're right. I mean, there's obviously, it feels like it's a quiet week and there's like things that are going on that people are more focused about. But yeah, there's always something going on in Paraguay. And one of the things that we obviously speak about here is the Superclásico. And it's never Superclásico without some drama, because obviously we see Olimpia taking on Cerro, two teams really with different perspectives, you would say, in the league. Ralph, because obviously Cerro Porteño are still technically in the fight. There were 30 points, 7 behind Libertad, who dropped points the other day, which again is a huge ask. But we've seen stranger things, and we have 5 games left in the season, so it could indeed happen. But it's going to be very difficult for that to be. As for Olimpia, they're currently in 5th place with 21 points. They're still technically in the fight to obviously qualify to the Libertadores. They're currently in 6th in the overall, the combined points total for all the teams. So the first three go to the Libertadores, and the other four, so from first to seven, they go to the Sudamericana, and Olimpia currently in six with 52 points. So they're still not in completely, but they're also not out as well. So that's going to be interesting. And you look at how it is right now with Libertad, Cerro, and Trinidense's side that's actually going to play in the Copa Paraguay semifinal. So that's another opportunity for them to possibly qualify, a recently promoted side, Trinidense side that we had actually spoken about early on as kind of a dark horse, and here they are with the possibility of going to the Libertadores or the Sudamericana. So that's a big deal for them. But yeah, obviously this game comes at a really different perspective for both teams. The one thing that's of course been happening and kind of in the main talking point, and I'm sure you have seen it on social media and whatnot, is with Jean Fernandez, the goalkeeper of Cerro Porteño. Obviously, there had been some controversy the other day of him not playing in the match against Trinidense, but there had been some rumors about him possibly leaving. Now, obviously, that has been kind of debunked in a way because it is seen that he will play tomorrow, or sorry, he will play this weekend in the Superclasico. But yeah, it was kind of a weird situation that's been going on. There had been some rumors of him fighting with the current national team, with the staff that's going on at Cerro Porteño. I mean, it's a weird situation, and it's not something that you want right before a big game that is the Superclasico, especially when you're technically still in a title race.
Yeah, it's not great preparation, and especially when your goalkeeper is such an important part of your team because you don't have really any good number two. Because the big thing with Cerro and the reason I think this has become such a big talking point with Jean Fernandez is because everyone's remembering the last Clásico when he didn't play, and you have Miguel Martinez in goal. Miguel Martinez is very young, and he struggles a bit. He's obviously hasn't played. His last game was that Clásico, so when he played on Tuesday, it was his first game in 8 months. But in that Clásico that Cerro were leading 2-0, he ends up getting sent off, and then the third goalkeeper, Miers, is even younger. He's even more inexperienced. He has two horrible errors, and the game ends 2-2. So of course everybody has that in their consciousness when they're thinking about, oh, if Jean Fernandez doesn't play, this could really like throw open the game because Cerro don't have really a backup goalkeeper like some teams do. Like for a long time, Cerro had people like, I don't know, like Poppy Munoz, who's like 40 years old now, but very experienced pros. Now they have these two very young goalkeepers behind Jean Fernandez. So that's part of the reason. And then just talking about Jean, I mean, it's obviously interesting that he's going to go up against Olimpia and Chiquiase. And really, Chiquiase was the one figure that could manage to keep Jean in check because he's a firecracker. He's, you know, a crazy kind of player. He has a long history of issues, of personal issues, and you know, he was a big gamble when Cerro brought him in. But Chiquiase always managed to keep him under control, and he managed him very well. Now Arce is on the other side. He's at Olimpia, and I think with the interim managers at the moment, so you have Bernay at the moment at Cerro before you had Gavilan. Maybe they don't have that kind of presence that Arce has, or they haven't formed that bond that Arce managed to form with Fernandez, and he's probably feeling maybe it's time to move on, and some of this indiscipline, which is what got him banned for Tuesday's game against, you know, as an internal ban against Trinidense. This is probably stemming from maybe he's feeling like this is my time to leave. And like we were talking about, the end of the year is coming up, the end of season and transfer windows also there. So there was probably something going on there. The big question is now, will he be 100% in terms of mentally focused for the Clásico, which is such an important game?
Yeah, I think it's going to be very difficult. As for Olympia's case, you know, like I'd mentioned beforehand, this could be an opportunity for them to kind of spoil the party in a way, because obviously, not that I mentioned beforehand, but Libertad obviously dropped points to General Caballero back on Monday. They still have to play. So the advantage, of course, Libertad have is that they play after this game. They play Resistencia on Monday. So again, this could be a situation that Olimpia can, you know, take advantage. And mind you, they're on a good stat, as Ralph had pointed out to me in the chat. They're unbeaten in the last six Clásicos, which seems like a long time. But it feels as if though it's only been a year or something because they played so many Clásicos over the last few years. But yeah, I mean, this is an advantage for them to extend their streak, to ruin another kind of run that Cerro Porteño has been having, because it's kind of weird how the season has been for them so far. Because obviously, they're still in the fight right now. You can even remember last year where they had those record points. I'm trying to remember off the top of my head how much it was that, but it was a very big amount of points, and they didn't win the close the yeah, any of the titles last year. So it's kind of interesting, and they fell short last year, and now they might fall short again. So imagine having to go that route. And I think it's always been interesting what's going on with Cedro. I mean, now it could go four straight championships without winning a single title, a single league title. They're out of the Copa Paraguay, and obviously the Libertadores ended like it did. But no, it's a huge deal for Cedro, at least for morale boost, and of course bragging rights to get this win. But how do you assess this, Ralph? I mean, because it's a very tough affair. I mean, obviously, all these games that are happening in the Superclásicos are always tough ones to really pinpoint and whatnot. But obviously, it's going to be hard to really call whatnot for such a big game like this. Olimpia, of course, are at home, so that gives them the advantage. But how do you see this game? Because I don't know if I feel confident in Cerro Porteño, honestly, especially given that stat that you said, and also everything that's going on internally. It seems like it always happens. Like all these kind of crises have always gone the wrong way for the team that's been receiving it.
Yeah, I think is you mentioned firstly you mentioned a bit about Cerro last season when they were getting almost record points totals, but Libertad were getting the record points total and passing them. And last year you really
71
saw.
by the way. 71 by the way. That was how
There
many
we
they
go.
got last.
Okay. So Cerro and Libertad were really like two very good teams going head to head. This year it feels much more like Libertad have managed to keep that level. They weren't able to sign anybody. I think they signed one player or something, but they've managed to keep the team together and keep that level. Even though they've lost Garnero to the national team, the current interim coach is still managing to keep them up. So Cerro, on the other hand, have kind of really dropped off, and so that we saw that's why Chiquiase left. Then we saw with Gavilan more recently, they were almost too good for most of the teams in the league, but they couldn't beat them, so they just kept drawing lots of games. I think Gavilan, he only lost one game, but they couldn't really get the wins. But it also showed that Cerro is probably in the right place here as the second best team in the league because they do have that much quality. But you're not seeing them as last year in terms of really going head to head with Libertad. So where does that put them against Olimpia? Well, what we're seeing with Olimpia is also very interesting. I mean, I really thought when Chiquiase took over Olimpia that was going to be the turnaround for them. They were also getting Delis Gonzalez back from injury. So you were thinking, right, this is like, boom, going to be the turnaround. But in fact, Olimpia's form has been very patchy. They won in midweek against Guarani in what is called the Clásico Añejo. It's the oldest rivalry in Paraguayan football. But they were very lucky to get away with that game. I think Guarani had 2 goals disallowed, probably rightly. But still, I mean, Guarani were very close to getting something from that game. And I don't think, for me, I didn't feel like Olimpia played particularly well. So now you have these two teams that maybe aren't doing particularly well. And we talked about the stat that Olimpia unbeaten in the last 6. Well, actually, the last 3 games have been draws and score draws. And you kind of feel something like that's going to happen, I think, at the weekend because both teams are maybe not really good enough to get all 3 points, but they're probably strong enough, and especially in the Clásico, they're going to go together to not want to lose. So I get the feeling, we might have some kind of draw coming out of the situation. But one thing, I mean, we shouldn't underestimate the Jean Fernandez because of what happened last time. I mean, he hasn't. I don't think he's been in a Clásico this year. Remember, he famously got sent off before the Clásico even started when he was like seen to be taunting or adjudged to have been taunting Olimpia fans. That was in the Super Cup, I think. 2021. Okay, thanks, Roberto. Yeah, I mean, he has this long history of these crazy moments, and so if his head isn't 100%, which we feel it isn't because he's been in these issues this week, something could happen in that game. I mean, it gives away a penalty, gets sent off in 15 minutes, who knows? And that will change the whole game. But I think all things being equal, you would maybe see some kind of draw here with neither team really having that quality to decide the game.
But by the way, it was 98 points that Cerro got last year. They had 98 points and they still couldn't win a single title. That's insane. They had more points than any other team in that season. Nothing. They're on 71 for the time being. So yeah, I mean, it could be. I mean, are you saying that with this game, you're saying like a draw in this case, we'll wait for your score in a bit, but do you feel as if though this game might have the Jean Fernandez blunder or something going on? Because again, it could indeed happen, and you kind of look at all the situation that happened this week, and like you said, both teams really aren't good enough in a way, at least within each other, to go and get the win. But I mean, that's probably what you're gonna bet on, I guess. Like something's gonna happen to Jean if he does end up playing, which I think he will, obviously, because maybe that's kind of everything that's been said. But something is gonna happen. Or again, if he has a good result, I mean, yeah, that's a big clapback, I guess, to those that kind of have criticized him. So either way, there's going to be something that's going to happen. Either John becomes the villain or becomes the hero in this match.
Yeah, he doesn't really live in the gray areas, right? It's going to be one or the other. You think he'll either do something crazy or he'll probably save a penalty and keep Cerro in the game. I think that's a good way to look at it. He will this has been brewing all of this week and it's going to come to a head on Sunday. So something is going to happen either way. I mean, I guess we should look at it a bit from the Olimpia side. How do they really want to take advantage of that? Again, we talked about Chiquiase. He knows Jean very well. They're going to be provoking him, I'm sure, most of that game. I mean, I wonder if he wants to play somebody like Paiva, who also has that explosive temperament and is very physical up front. You could imagine him at corners, kind of bumping into Jean. So maybe they play on that rather than just looking at their best team. But it will be interesting to see how Olimpia try and do something with that. I mean, they they are also, like we're saying, not in great form. So apart from maybe, I think I want to say Hugo Fernandez, I think has been playing well. Fernando Cardoso is being looked at, I think, by clubs abroad because he once played in Portugal. He had a good season, especially in Libertadores. In fact, his agent this week on the radio was saying that MLS were looking at him. So that's someone to kind of keep note of. But then the key person who's been really the big player in Clásicos is always Derlis Gonzalez. But we really, I don't feel we've seen much from him in the game against Guarani. I was watching. He was pulling wide quite a lot and almost as if he didn't want the ball in the middle or through the channels, which is where when he's 100% and more comfortable, that's what he's going to be doing to you. So I think that's another key point. If Jean Fernandez is like the key player on the Cerro team, I think it's really Derlis Gonzalez who, of all the team at the moment, has that quality to make a difference, but he hasn't been showing it since he came back from injury.
Yeah, it's going to be a tough one to call, but we might as well do it right now. I'm going to go first, actually. I think I'm going to go over my prediction because I think it's, again, I don't see any team really going out there to really fight for it. And for Cedro, they're under more obligation to get it because they know that they're still technically in this race. As for Olimpia, yeah, they obviously want to get that, but they understand like the bigger, like Cedro, they know they're going to go to the Libertadores next year. That's already a given. For Olimpia, they still need to figure that out. But of course, bigger obligation for a team to win a title rather than a team that's not in it. So, as much as as a Cedro fan, I'd love to see this result go Cedro's way. I don't see it happening. I think it's going to be one of those really tight affairs. Maybe we'll see Cedro take advantage firsthand and score first. I would say that's my bold prediction in that one. But then Olimpia try to bounce back and try to kind of ruin their dreams of possibly winning the title. Which ultimately, I'd have to say, Ralph, I think even if Cedro don't win this game, I think it's safe to say that the title race is over. It doesn't matter what happens to Libertad. It seems that way with a few more matches to go. I mean, I think if Cedro don't get anything outside of 3 points, I think this league race is over for them. And that's how I personally feel. I think Libertad had won the Clausura way beforehand. I think this game will probably confirm it once and for all. But I'd say Cedro won, Olimpia won in the Superclasico this weekend. What says you?
Yeah, I like your idea that both teams score because Cerro have, talking about Jean Fernandez, Cerro haven't kept a clean sheet now in 14 games, which is incredibly long. And I think in the Clásico is something like four or five games without a clean sheet at least. Oh no, wait, six, right? Because yeah, I think it's six. So you will see Olimpia score. I think that's very likely. Can Cerro score two is really my question, I guess. If for Cerro to win this, they would have to score twice. I don't think I can see it happening either. So I think the 1-0 draw is where this could definitely end. This is we're assuming nothing goes crazy with the goalkeeper situation. I mean, as we've been talking
You
about the
say
whole
that now,
show.
and it's gonna happen. You're
Yeah,
already
yeah,
saying it right now.
yeah. We'll end up jinxing it. Now we said 1-0 and end up being like a 3-3 or something. But
Yeah.
I think a score draw. I think 1-1 is where we're gonna go, and it's partly because like we're just talking about both teams that really have the quality at the moment to take the game and win it.
Yeah, it really is. Like, I think in other Super Classicos, we might see like the form of one team like overwhelm the other one. So usually that's kind of how our predictions have been. But like in this situation, at least in this Super Classico, both of them are not really in like the hottest of form. So yeah, I mean, it makes even more tolerable a prediction like this of a draw. So that's how I personally feel. But again, it's going to be a good game. Obviously, I can't wait. Obviously, it's on Sunday, a day before Halloween. So let's see who's going to be deserving of treats and who's going to be tricked. We'll see what happens. That's a really bad pun, but I decided to work with it. But no, it's good to see. I can't wait. So obviously, to close out Guarani Vision here for another great episode for myself, Roberto Rojas, and Ralph Hanna. Thank you so much for listening in. See you soon.